Hello, welcome back. Today I'm joined with my lovely wife Joywyn again. She's here every time, obviously. And we're going to be talking about the discovery of meaning in chaos. How do we conceptualize chaos whilst we are engaging in the spiritual path? How do we derive certain treasures out of engaging with it? And yeah,
Yeah,
what sort of thoughts do you have about chaos? How has chaos played a role in your own spiritual journey? What lessons have you derived from its labyrinth?
I feel like chaos differs person to person, and I feel like any amount of struggle or chaos that you're going through is only given to you because you have the capacity to handle that. You are never given more than you can handle. That is something that I stand by. So I know that whatever is being thrown my way, I will get through it because I'm the one that's meant to get through it, and I can. So, having that attitude towards chaos definitely makes it a lot more moderate in terms of dealing with that. And I feel like there's a lot of organized chaos. There are certain things that we may perceive chaotic, but in nature, they are only trying to show us facets of our deeper psyche playing out. And I always learn a lot through these intense energies or conflict energies because there's always a lot that you can take away from chaos and conflict. Yeah.
Mm,
How do you deal with chaos?
yeah, I mean, when I look back at the events of my life which have been most chaotic, um, I can look back with reverence for the various lessons that I experienced. Everyone, well, perhaps people aren't familiar, but there is the notion of the dark night of the soul,
Yes.
which is can be conceived of as a spiritual confrontation with chaos in such a way that it strips away all the illusions of your being, all, and it confronts you very um, sincerely with darkness and adversity and challenge and strife. But there is a deeper contact with truth, I feel, through the dark night of the soul, when you're able to come out to the other side. In a certain way, you can see chaos as a kind of initiator into a higher form of awareness, particularly as chaos can really challenge you. It can push you to your very limits, and it can help you to realize certain capacities that you would not have realized that you had you not had that chaotic event or experience conjure up in your life. So I look at chaos as an alchemical force for one's inner transformation, and it's a transformation through fire ultimately.
Yeah.
Um, and yes, fire can burn and scald certain people, but it can often also mold you into um, an even greater kind of structure. I feel it changes your state in the way that heating something will change its states from a liquid to a gas or something like that.
Alchemy.
It is a kind of alchemy, and that's why I don't glamorize chaos. Um, Chaos can be a destructive force, undoubtedly, but it can also be a creative force. And I think it's important for people to consider that dual aspect of chaos. I feel.
Yeah.
Mm.
I feel like my views on this would be that there is always a method to the madness. Certain chaos that happens in our day-to-day life, like let's say something like a daily problem or something that is just happening that you feel is against your energies, but in reality everything is happening exactly the way it's meant to, because your soul always needs to learn something from that situation. So the situation is coming for us to realize a deeper truth about ourselves, or somebody else in that situation, it always leads to a certain kind of realization or a very high level awareness for me. And I see it as organized chaos. Like there is something of a higher order conducting that in order for me to learn something. That's the way I perceive it to be,
Mm.
and that gives me peace in it, because I know it is not here for me to be a victim of it, but it is here truly to teach me something more that I may not already know, and it is for my benefit. It is all happening for the highest good, and that belief really really helps.
Yeah, I think a lot of people may struggle with finding meaning in chaos.
Yes,
Their vision, their way of seeing is so obscured by the pain that often accompanies chaos that they fail in the moment to see the utility of it. Sometimes it may take time to integrate chaotic experiences to then be able to look back on it and have the the benefit of retrospective receiving is often when we look at things in retrospect where we can see the higher purpose of it. Sometimes we are so close to the tapestry of creation. When we're so close up, we can't see the bigger picture, right?
that's true.
And when we're in the real grips of it, it can be difficult to maintain that faith that what is occurring is beneficial for me right
That's
now.
true.
It can be easy for us to just cry out to the universe, why me? Why is this happening? Why am I encountering this? But if you can maintain that kind of that faith, that trust in what is happening, and that trust really, it can give you that kind of immovable and unwavering lightness to your being that enables you to be able to weather the many storms that life will inevitably throw at you. And when you have that higher perspective, it allows you to look at the chaos that may be existing in your life currently with a kind of detached perspective. And you can see, when you have that detached perspective, you can see what is the use of this to me right now. Maybe it's someone who is being nasty to you, some
Yes.
negative person in your life, some kind of work colleague or whatever who is bothering you, causing friction in your life. Um, it There is one response to friction where we can get frustrated by it and agitated by it, and we can ruminate endlessly on it. And and when we ruminate endlessly on it, we add more and more energy to that fire of negative emotion, which is not a beneficial disposition of mind, I feel. It's not a productive disposition of mind. It does not allow us to transmute that energy. It rather just weighs us down further and further into dense energies. If we can have a more detached and enlightened perspective where we can pull our emotions away from getting overly involved in it, which is a difficult thing to do. It requires practice to be able
Practice.
to do this,
Yeah.
but it is a capacity that people can cultivate. I would like to say that because I've seen in myself my own development with being able to um, have sovereignty over my emotional states and to not give so much energy to negative emotions, because negative emotions, they weigh us down, they deplete us of our vitality and our life force. It does not invigorate us, and we should be very very conscious of that. When we can dissociate from a chaotic situation and reclaim the kind of sovereignty of our emotional reactions, we can access a higher wisdom. And higher wisdoms can only come when we have clarity of mind. We will not be able to access those higher wisdoms of a situation when we are weighed down in dense emotion. So, really, this question is a question of our awareness and how steady a mind we can maintain whilst in a very emotionally intense situation, perhaps. And that's a very, difficult but very worthwhile endeavor to cultivate. And of course, it takes time, it takes experience um, to be able to gain the courage really, and the competence to be able to detach from a chaotic situation. Um, but when we are able to do that, we gain a very profound power, I feel, particularly over our own awareness and our own reactions. Um, I think it does very much come down to, can you remain still wherever you are? Can you maintain an internal stillness that is completely independent of whatever is going on in the outside world? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people hold on to a lot of old beliefs, and what is required to be able to do these things with ease is something called rewriting your mind. You have to rewire your perception, your thoughts, your beliefs. Now, what does that mean? Because this word has been thrown around quite a bit, but rewiring your brain means when you're in that situation, you basically choose a different mode of thought. It all starts with your mind. Everything else just falls like a domino effect of action, but the originating factor is your mind. The more control you have over your mind, the more controlled your actions would be, the more attentive, the more aware you will be. So, in order to rewrite these beliefs, what I do is if I'm in a conflict and I can't see the positive in it, at all, because I'm controlled by my emotional affairs at that time, in that moment, because you're in the thick of it. When you're caught up in an emotion, it's very difficult to ascend that level of emotion to go into a higher detached perspective. It is not easy to be detached, but like you said, with practice everything is very much possible. And over the time I started doing a gratitude practice, like even in a conflict or even in a situation that doesn't feel good to me, I find the good. I train my brain to find the good. And that is something that is difficult, but once you learn it, it's a forever skill. Like you can't go back to negative
Mm,
thinking, you can't go back to negative ways. You become this new version that only sees the good in everything, regardless of it being bad, because
yeah.
you choose the good, you choose the higher thought. But yeah, that
Mm,
could be really useful.
yeah. It is very much a matter of raising your vibration, as people would say,
Yes.
raising your frequency, and you can raise your frequency into deeper feelings of contentment, of bliss, of equanimity by noticing the disposition of your mind and your awareness. What do you have a tendency to think about? What does your attention focus upon? Do you tend to ruminate on anxious thoughts and fearful thoughts, or do you tend to, ruminate on gratitude? Do you tend to look out onto the world and see this childlike joy and wonder and curiosity? Um, this is a question that we all have to ask ourselves fundamentally, and we, and this is that can go into a whole separate thing, which we'll probably record another
Yeah.
video upon, where we can talk about how do we alchemize negative emotional states into positive ones. How do we sort of rewire our mind?
Mind,
How do we
yes.
rewire that conditioning, which is a very, very big topic, which I won't take out completely here.
Yeah.
But it's something for the listener to leave with a sort of contemplation upon their mind, what they think about, and what sort of thoughts, what sort of emotions, what sort of sentiments animate their mind from day to day. You know.
Yeah.
But I think we'll leave that at that and conclude there. Okay. Goodbye,
Okay,
everyone.
goodbye.
All right. Bye bye. There we go.
That was
Wow.
good.
Good.